Kazakhstan. Through this land passed a very famous trade route of antiquity, the Great Silk Road. Stretching from the banks of the Yellow River to the coast of Adriatic, thousands of years ago the Silk Road became an interlink between the East and the West. The biggest part of it crosses the territory of Kazakhstan. Dozens and hundreds of Kazakhstani cities and towns were prosperous on this highway, which for more than 1 millennium connected different parts of the world from Japan and China to Rome. How many of them had vanished and erased from the human memory? In the long history of archaeological research, the scientists of Kazakhstan returned to the historical map of the country hundreds of names of the cities that once flourished on the great trade route of antiquity. We are going to present you 8 sites of the Silk Road's initial section of the Silk Road's routes network of the Tianjin Corridor nomination. Talgar. It's a 5,000 meters peak in the mountains of Zali Alatau near Almaty. This is a rapid mountain river and picturesque village on its banks. Talgar is an ancient settlement on its southern end, a monument of national status. The site is identified with the medieval village of Talhis, reported by an anonymous Persian source of the 10th century, Hudud al-Alam. The monument is investigated since 1963. During the excavations were cleared the paved streets, dwelling houses, and bases of use. Main streets were paved with cobblestone. They were led by the rows of trade stores. Area of the town is 28 hectares. Talgar is known as a center of blacksmiths. Revealing the fact of the cast iron and damask steel production by the medieval metallurgists of Talgar reflects not only the high technological skills, but also the region's links with the Far East. On the territory of Talgar was found a large number of articles characterizing the city as one of the key centers of trade between the Far and Middle East, as well as the entire Middle East and Central Asia. Here was a center of cereal trade, and its surrounding villages and settlements had a high potential of grain production. The presence of artificial irrigation in 1221 is mentioned in the written source of Yelu Chui Tsai. He writes, "There are a lot of plains and people are engaged in farming. Also, there were a lot of fruit trees. Cultivated all 5 species of cereal plants and used in artificial irrigation." Connected by the Great Silk Road with the neighboring countries and people, the urban culture was one of the original hearths of civilization in the system of cultures and civilizations of Eurasia. South Bakhash Lake is a part of the Northeast Jitasu. It is a major geographical region, historical and cultural region in the southeastern Kazakhstan. Karamergen is located on a flat surface, bounded on one side by the high sands, on the other by the Old River Channel. Karamergen is the largest and most northern medieval city of agricultural civilization in the ancient delta of the Ili River in the 19th-13th centuries. Karamergen served as an important transit point of Balkhash segment of the Silk Road leading to central Kazakhstan and from there to the Eastern Europe. Significant role in the development of the city played a trade. In the 11th, 13th centuries, of the increasing importance became trade and diplomatic way that linked the western of Mongolia through Ili Valley. Karamergen is a unique example of human adaptation to the environment through the use of canals, dams, holes, reservoirs, and wells. The citizens not only adapted to the unfavorable environment of the desert, but also created favorable conditions for the development of trade relations with the southern regions of central Kazakhstan. Kayalık is the largest settlement in the Ili Valley. From the description made by Rubruk, who visited Kayalık in November 1253, it follows that Kayalık was a big city with bazaars, squares, and temples. Archaeological research of the settlement began in 1964, when under the guidance of Baybakov, there were laid several pits and was shot a plan of the site. During the years of archaeological research of the monument, was excavated an object of the 12th, early 13th century, identified as Buddhist temple. Also was opened a Friday mosque of pillar type, dating from the 12th, early 13th century, Manichaean temple of the 13th century, Muslim mausoleums of the 12th, early 13th centuries. Their facades were decorated with magnificent carved terracotta, as well as Hanaka of the 12th, early 13th century, located near the mausoleums. For many years of archaeological research were collected the artifacts of religious or utilitarian purpose, with the features belonging to a specific religious movement. A different confessional focus with the medieval city suggests relations through the caravan routes from the regions of the east and the west, through which the missionaries did not only bring spiritual values, but implemented constant contact between representatives of the above-mentioned religious communities. A well-known role of the Silk Road is in the spread of world religions and religious ideas. Its routes were passed by missionaries who brought their beliefs to the distant lands. Active Asian settlement existed during the period of the 6th and 13th centuries. Artifacts obtained in the study of town indicate the presence of the Christian community. Residents of the city also professed Islam. At Shahristan were found traces of a minaret. Carving ornament on clay, fragments of which are found in the roofs of the citadel palace, reproduces the motifs that were well known for the 11th, 12th centuries. Various coins and the attributes of their production witness presence of mint at the site. During the archaeological excavations in Aktobe Asian settlement was found a city water system of impressive length. On the territory of the settlement were found artifacts indicating that in the city was produced a wine. Wine culture was spread due to the Sogdians, who were experts in this deal. The site of Aktobe is a large group of so-called settlements with along their tied to the Great Silk Road. Aktobe was a large trading, manufacturing, and cultural center in Jettasun. The site is identified with the city of Chamukat, based in the 6th century by the Bukhara Sogdians, moved to Turkestan. Chamukat is also mentioned by the geographer Al-Maqdisi and Nadshahi in his work Tarikh-e-Bukhara. Al-Maqdisi characterizes this city as follows. It is a large city. There is a wall around it, cathedral mosque in it, and there are markets in Rabat. The oldest complex of buildings in the citadel complex refers to the 6th and 8th centuries, is the palace of Kostabe. Ceremonial and ritual premises of the palace at the time were often decorated with murals, carved piece and alabaster, also carved wood. Carved pieces on clay is widely represented in the palace complex of Kostabe. The site of Kostabe is one of the largest in the Talas Valley. Is a unique complex of multi-caravanserai located compactly in a small area and dated in chronological range from the 11th to 14th century. At Akurtas were studied structures directly or indirectly related to the maintenance and development of trade. Extensive network of waterworks, garden and park area created the necessary facilities for living trade and production. Various fortifications and signal facilities would provide security and to facilitate unimpeded trade along the Silk Road. Kızıltağ mountain, around which were located all the buildings of Akurtas, was a source of building materials, red sandstone and loess loam. During the construction of the city were used local stone and clay, as evidenced by a mining career. The archaeological complex is an example of architectural traditions of Akurtas at a large distance. Analogies to unique layout of the palace of Akurtas lay in the architecture of the Middle East. The palace was built with the assistance of Arab architects, with architectural traditions of the Middle East. A very similar to Akurtas layout was a layout of the palaces of Samarra, Iraq, and the palaces of Syria and Jordan. The construction and use of the transport corridor, Western Europe, Western China, passing close to Akurtas, is an evidence for the existence of a system of values and traditions that have roots in the Middle Ages. Ornek Asian settlement is located on the Silk Road, and according to the Arab travelers, it may correspond to the medieval city of Kushu. Ornek was one of the Karluk nobility quarters who owned Taras and the area to the east from the 8th to the 10th century. Excavations revealed the Sogdian ceramics and glazed ceramics with Arabic epigraphic ornament. In the area of the center, on the river of Otensu, there were cleared the remains of 17 water mills. The passing caravans needed grain and flour. In the riverbed of Altensu River were found more than 10 large stones, which plains are emerged outside. On the upper floors of stone there were done the holes, which in the summertime served for gold grit removal in the period of decrease of water in the river or melting of snow from the glaciers. Ornek was once the city, where the gold was mined this way. Locating on the Silk Road, the city was a center of international and local trade. Arab geographer al-Maqdisi characterizes Kulan as a fortified city. He writes, "The great mosque is in it. It is already a ghost town. It is not a great on the roads of Taras." Archaeological excavations carried out on the site revealed a unique architectural complex of the country, palace of the rulers of the city. This is a multi-room palatial building. The walls of the entrance complex were decorated with carved peas, which formed an ornamental panel of vegetable and geometrical motifs. Figurines of people once mounted in the plane of ornamental panels. The art of carving on the piece was spread along the Silk Road at a great distance and reflects the cultural traditions of various countries and peoples. Junction position of the city, the two routes of the Silk Road, the foothills and steppe, all this provided the trade of the period of the city from the 9th to 12th centuries. There were some glazed ceramics with Arabic inscriptions, indicating the spread of Islam. Finds of ancient Turkic stone sculptures is an evidence of Tingrenism and shamanism. The city, therefore, was the meeting point of religion. In ancient times and the Middle Ages, as well as nowadays, Kulan was a city on the traditional way of connecting Kazakhstan with China and Europe.